Okay, let's talk. By the way, someone's saying you have to pay me to get me to talk about Cory Booker. Not true. I'm going to talk about Cory Booker right now. I haven't talked that much about Cory Booker recently because people haven't paid, obviously. And about the fact that he's running for president, other than to say, I don't find him to be super genuine. He strikes me more than other politicians, more than the average politician, as someone who says everything he says is extra calculated and less genuine than other politicians. And that says a lot because we're talking about politicians here. And I was watching this interview he did yesterday, I believe it was, or maybe the day before, with MSNBC's Chris Matthews. He didn't even answer a simple question about whether football is dangerous, like the sport of American football, and whether he would let his kids play. Cory Booker played football in college, okay, and Chris Matthews asked a very sensible question, which is, we know about the dangers of football now. It's not just concussions, but it's the long-term brain injury, CTE. It's found not just in players who play professionally, but we're seeing it in college players. There are now even some instances of players who only played in high school and were killed, and there was evidence of CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, in them, truly disabling brain injuries, and the growing consensus that football is just not safe. Something's very wrong. So Chris Matthews asked Booker about it. Booker first punts with a joke about a 4.0 yards per carry or GPA and 1,600 receiving yards or something, and then names football coaches of his. And then Chris Matthews asks again, and Cory Booker mentions Notre Dame. Take a look at this.
The NFL, would you encourage kids today, parents with kids, young teenagers, to play football?
God, I would be a hypocrite. I got into Stanford because of a 4.0, 1,600. 4.0 yards per carry, 1,600 receiving yards my senior year.
That's legit.
I was legit. I was a high school All-American football player.
No, you played for a really great school.
And I played for some great coaches like Denny Green.
I saw, we're going to show some of your highlights on the show tonight, and 81.
Yes.
And I was asking you, you get a reception at college football at the Stanford level, national competition, and you catch that ball right down the sideline. What the ball, you got it, and then somebody whacks you, brings you down on the gravel with all their might. Is football too dangerous?
Well, listen, Notre Dame we played against in South Bend, Indiana.
You know who I was rooting for.
Yeah, let me ask you again, is it dangerous? Well, once I played against Notre Dame. Why is this such a difficult question? Is there video later in the interview where Booker does answer the question? I wasn't able to find it anywhere. These are not complicated questions. Like, I get that there are more serious issues than football, but why not just say, hey, you know what? I played football, but at the time we didn't know everything that we know now. And yeah, I would be hesitant to let my kids or to encourage other kids to play football or whatever. Is it that, is he that worried, Pat, about offending colleges who make a ton of money off of college football programs? Like, why can't he just answer?
Well, he definitely is a very calculating politician, and he hasn't prepared for this question. I suppose he's in a pickle here because if he says that he does support kids playing football, then it sounds like he's being insensitive to CTE. And if he says that he supports, kids not playing football or completely changing the rules and the safety measures, then he sounds like un-American and he's against one of our national pastimes. But at the end of the day, it's not like this is a voting issue. People aren't going to prioritize this. Just give your honest opinion.
Yeah, I truly don't get it. And I'm not a big Booker guy on a lot of issues. I agree with him. That's not super controversial. I agree with most Democratic candidates on lots of issues. I do find Booker's idea of these enterprise zones. The idea is to fix areas of urban blight, urban areas that are struggling, with total free market enterprise zones. And he got that, that idea originates with right-wing supply sider Jack Kemp. I just disagree that that's the way to solve the problems happening in urban areas. Booker has talked about fueling the tech sector by easing regulations on big tech. I think the last 2 years have shown us pretty clearly that the last thing we need is fewer regulations on big tech. So I'm not a big Booker guy. He's currently polling around 6%. Certainly at this point in time, that, March of the year before the primary, that could be enough to catapult him to the nomination. Still very much in the running if history tells us anything, although he is not one of my top 3 or even really top 5 candidates, probably not coming as a surprise to most people in the audience. One of our sponsors today is Minds.com. Minds is a social networking platform that combines many features that are similar to what you find on platforms like YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, like news feeds, groups, videos, blogging, except what makes Minds different is their goal of maintaining free speech, transparency, user privacy, and ensuring that users are fairly compensated for the content they create. This has been an issue for the David Pakman Show. Most other major social networking companies are secretive about their algorithms. All of the code that drives the Minds social network is free and it's open source. Anybody can access it and see how the platform operates and contribute to the project. They're sort of taking the same open source principles behind something like Wikipedia, where everything is totally open and transparent, and instead applying it to social media where you usually don't see it. They also have a very free speech oriented content policy. Everything on the site is encrypted. Your data stays safe. Minds doesn't track what you're doing online the way many other platforms do. Lots of other sites give you privacy settings, but that doesn't change the fact that they still have access to your private data. But with the encryption on Minds, Minds doesn't even have the ability to read your private messages or whatever else you're doing. And every time you do something on Minds, like post content or share or like someone else's content, you earn Minds tokens, which can then be used to boost the visibility of the content that you create and post. I encourage you to go check it out at Minds.com. There's also a mobile app, and you can actually follow the David Pakman Show on Minds at Minds.com/David Pakman Show. I've also put a link right underneath this video.